Alrighty everyone, welcome back. It is now February 15th of 2023, and we are just weeks away from the official release of The Mandalorian Season 3 by both Jon and Dave, as well as George Lucas, by the way, who had a great hand in helping out with the series. That's really going to kickstart this new universe provided by both Favreau and Filoni. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future Star Wars updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. Now, given that yes, we have a lot of projects to be announced by this April at Celebration that takes place in London by Disney, we also have more to be announced at D23 later this year. That's going to be also a great deal for Lucasfilm setting up their slate of Star Wars shows and even Star Wars movies. Now that brings us to what Jon and Dave are currently up to. Now, one thing is for certain is that we know that from what all they have been teasing is that they are getting ready to be using the Grand Admiral Thrawn trilogy, or the Thrawn trilogy from the 90s, to tell a great tale in Ahsoka, Mando Season 4, and an upcoming show called Star Wars Mandalore. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, we also have, of course, Kathleen Kennedy creating both Skeleton Crew and the Acolyte that's not really turning out to be too well. A lot of production issues and problems with all of that. Now that brings us to what Favreau had to confirm just recently about a specific Star Wars TV series going into, of course, cancellation and getting wiped off of the slate or the roadmap of the Star Wars franchise, officially speaking, and exactly why this happened and what it really entailed. So let's tap right into this. Now, one thing that I do like about Jon is that he is very direct with the fans. He kind of likes to dive into details while also keeping things at a minimum without spoiling anything. But here's what, of course, he had to actually say, and everything related to that is that, well, with Favreau and Filoni now focused on their new Star Wars TV shows and projects, they are getting ready to make some big announcements for the fandom. Now, in a recent interview, Favreau was able to confirm something big to the franchise of the fans about a specific series that recently officially got cancelled by Favreau and Lucasfilm. He went on to state the following to the community. There is one show that we are currently shelving after working on in pieces, but it was eventually left in limbo that I can now confidently say that we are canceling Rangers of the New Republic for good, and that we wiped it out the slate of our upcoming Star Wars shows. We had great ambitions with the series, such as exploring the lives of Luke, Han, and Leia, just after the events of Return of the Jedi, to dedicating an entire story to Cara Dune as well. The first big hit for us back in 2021 was when Gina was let go from The Mandalorian and from all of Lucasfilm, and that set us on a collision course with this project. Now let me just stop right here for 1 second before I get into the next thing that Favreau has to talk about, alright? Now, we know that Favreau had a lot of great goals with Rangers. It wasn't just going to be about the Rangers of the New Republic, but it was going to also be about featuring Luke, Han, Leia, the droids, Chewbacca, and all the like. Basically, it was going to be a direct sequel to Return of the Jedi, showing us the events just after that movie leading up to a year later. And he talks about that in a little bit as well. Now, given that they wanted to literally give us, like, an immediate pickup of Return of the Jedi, I think it would have been fantastic. I think it would have been great to see what the lives of Luke, Han, and Leia would be like the day after or a week later from the Endor celebration scene and exactly what their lives were like. Now, Favreau goes on to tease more about that, and given that he and Filoni had a lot of great plans for Rangers of the New Republic, it also fell apart because of budgeting reasons at the time. And basically now it's very hard to revive the show because half the show is going to be about Cara Dune, the other half was going to be about strictly focusing on the rebellion with the help of Luke, Han, and Leia at their aid. And I think that would have been a very good TV show because, yes, the budget was going to be very high, we know that. On the other end of the thing here is that it was also going to be a very lengthy series. They were aiming to make this, by the way, guys, a 12 to 13 episode Star Wars TV show being 1 hour each. Alright, so that's like 13 to 14 hours worth of amazing post-Return of the Jedi content that we could have saw. Moving on. Now, he goes on to elaborate. We just kept hitting bricks after bricks while actually putting this project together, because a big part of the story was going to be about Cara leading the other Rangers and helping characters like Luke, Han, and Leia, and the rest of the remnants of the rebellion. So we wanted this thing to take place like days after Return of the Jedi. We wanted to actually open up on Endor, literally the morning after the nighttime celebration that took place in Return of the Jedi, and everything that was going to pick up from there leading to one whole year later. The good news is we are taking pieces of this show to actually exploring them in other shows to honor the series in spirit. Now, this is something that we kind of talked about a couple of months ago that John just confirmed now. That they are taking elements of Rangers of the New Republic and they will be exploring it in upcoming shows like Mando Season 4, the Ahsoka Tano series Season 2, and all these great things on the horizon. I don't know about you guys, but I think that this would have been a great hit, given that it was going to have a very cinematic look, a very movie-like look, high budget, great story, post-Return of the Jedi, like literally just like post, like the day after. I think that this would have been incredible, and I think George would have loved it too. But like he said, the big snag was how Gina was fired and they couldn't get Cara Dune in the story, and that wiped out half of the show. And that's unfortunate because, yes, I understand that the show is basically going to be a Cara Dune series with Luke, Han, and Leia involved, but they could have worked out a way, if they really wanted to kind of just rewrite the other half of the story with somebody else other than Cara Dune, if they really wanted to. But I get it, they respect the character, they respect Gina, you know, the show was made for her, so that kind of really put the nail in the coffin there. But overall, now it's off the roadmap completely. It's official, it's not happening, which is sad. But the good news that comes out of this is the remedy is taking scenes or aspects from Rangers and throwing them into other shows. So for example, you might get that scene of what Luke, Han, and Leia were up to a day after Return of the Jedi in, let's say, for example, Mando Season 4 or the second season of Ahsoka as a flashback. It could be something like that, of how they respect Rangers. It could also very well be something, you know, related to what we talked about of how the Battle of Jakku was supposed to be a big deal in Rangers. They, by the way, are working on incorporating that into Mando Season 4, so that's another prime example of salvaging some of the highlights from Rangers and putting them into other shows now. So that's the good news. The bad news is that the show in its entirety is not happening at all. It's not like it's on hiatus, it's not on hold, it's not on the back burner, it is cancelled, it's off the slate, it's off the roadmap. So overall, guys, fill me in below what you guys have to say about all of this in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, fill me in on what you guys have to say about that, and I'll catch you guys next time.
From night to moon, we hear them moans again.